Hello, welcome back to Blue Harvest History, and in today's video we're going to be looking at Morley Main Colliery. I'm talking about the explosion that happened there in 1872. The colliery was the property of William Ackroyd brothers, with Jonathan Simpkin as the manager, and was between Dewsbury and Leeds. It was known as a deep pit where 500 men were employed. 150 men went down in the morning, with 50 to 60 in the lead workings, while the explosion took place, which took the lives of 32 men in the pit, and 2 more died later of the injuries in Leeds Infirmary. The seams at the colliery were fiery, and the explosion came like a clap of thunder, and was totally unexpected. The seam of coal in which the disaster occurred was called the Middleton Main, or Deep Coal, the depth of 156 yards, and it was worked by pillar and stall. There was an upcast and a downcast shaft at the colliery, and a shaft from which the stone coal was worked was sunk into the deep coal and delivered the ventilation to the seam. The ventilation was from 2 furnaces, a large one and a small one, which was 20 to 30 yards from the bottom of the upcast shaft. There was a dumb drift, and the return air passed into the shaft on the same level, on a wall built under the shaft about 8 feet high. The furnaces were fed with fresh air, and on the day of the accident there were 18,000 cubic feet per minute of air passing through these furnaces. There were a large number of faults which threw the coal 35 yards upwards, and the roof near the faults was no good, and it was known that they gave off gas, but the roof in the other parts of the mine was good and hard. The manager allowed the men to fire their own shots in the mine. The mine employed about 250 people, with 42 horses were below ground at the time of the accident. Mr. Simpkin went down to the colliery at 6 a.m. on the morning of the disaster and saw the deputies, the night men, come out, and Allen reported to him that there was a little gas on the north side of the pit. Simpkin went down at 8:30 a.m. and examined the south side and started to come up at 1:30 p.m. when he felt a suck which did not put out his light. He was with the labourer John Holmes on the returned to its normal course. They went back into the pit and met Berry and one of the 2 others and went up the north side. They went on for about 100 yards and were told that it was alright. They returned to the pit bottom, where a boy called out that the pit had fired in the Andrew. Simpkin, Holmes, Berry and some others went along, and about 700 yards up the brow they saw that some iron sheeting had been knocked down. Dirt was all knocked down, and the sheeting had blown towards the shaft. The explosion had affected a district known as Andrews Road, and the damage was confined to this district. The men who died were George Hardy, 22, Thomas Seddon, 32, married with 3 children, James Hardy, aged 51, married with 10 children, William Park, 26, George Parker, 16, Josie Singleton, 14, Henry Broadbent, 14, John Tomlinson, 33, married with a child, Emmanuel Page, aged 32, married, George Carson, 16, Thomas Orty, 43, married with 3 children, John Powell, 49, married, James Howard, 37, James Pickergill, married with 6 children, James Butterfield, 14, Walter Earnshaw, 16, Robert Headley, 16, William Marsden, 51, married with 2 children, John Roberts, 50, with 3 children, John Addison, 32, who left a widow, William Pickersgill, 17, Henry Townsend, 36, Matthew Spence, 36, married with 3 children, Noah Preston, 19, John Mitchell, 35, married with 3 children, George Hurst, 38, married with 9 children, Joshua Teasdale, 35, George Ball, 31, married with 2 children, George Preston, 45, married with 3 children, George William Rowe, Mark Rowe, aged 28, married, James William Yates, 14, Joseph Armitage, 41, married with 8 children, and John Ratcliffe, aged 58. Some of the survivors were Charles Barraclough, George Manley, George Preston, William Smith, Thomas Hartley, and 3 men, Blizzard, Thornton and Grant. 11 horses were also killed. The inquest was held by Thomas Taylor, coroner, at the Royal Hotel in the town where the bodies had been taken. All interested parties were represented. The Inspector of the Mines, Mr. Wardle, inspected the explosion area after the disaster and found that the gulf had not ventilated, and either the firing of a shot or a fall of roof displaced gas in the intake airway, which was ignited at a naked light. It was proven in evidence at the inquest that pipes, matches, lamp keys and nails had been found in the clothing of the victims, and also stated that on the morning of the explosion there was a strong smell of tobacco by a deputy at the extreme ends of the workings, but there was no report of this violation of rules by the officers at the mine. Rule 30 was read: no person shall go into the workings with a naked lamp. No person shall smoke tobacco or light a naked candle at any place where safety lamps are ordered to be used. Mr. Wardle went on to say, I have a strong conviction, and I take this opportunity by expressing my opinion, when advanced many times before, and the use of gunpowder in mines giving off gas to such an extent as to require the use of safety lamps is likely to tend to such disastrous consequences as having brought up here this day. I am strongly of the opinion that they had the gulfs and endings been thoroughly examined as far as man could go into them, gas would not have accumulated in large quantities. It would suggest the desirability of discontinuing the use of naked light in the colliery altogether, excepting the shaft and the bank headlights at the bottom. It would recommend that the ventilation staple, though which the whole of this air and the district returns, should be enlarged at least at the seams section area of the main airways, that no more powder be used except in the stone drifts and in the coal at night when the colliery is at work, and then to be by properly authorised persons, and that in consequence of the comparatively short rarefied volume of air in the upcast shaft, it is more desirable that the mechanical ventilation should be substituted for the furnace, and I think the fan be the best known means. The jury retired and returned the following verdict: that we have come to the conclusion that the deceased came to their deaths by an explosion accident caused by a large accumulation of gas in the gulf at the top of the second pair of north endings, which gas appeared to have travelled to the naked light in Hardy's jig. But we consider that there has been carelessness on the part of some people or persons in the area of the workings, and we are of the opinion that more care is necessary in the ventilation to clear away the gas that accumulates in the gulfs. So knowing all this and looking around this area, there's no evidence of a colliery or a coal mine or anything. There's no signs up, there's no plaque or anything that even says there was a colliery, let alone this accident and this explosion, which I think does need some kind of signpost, some plaque or something that needs doing. So hopefully this information can get forward to the council and we can have at least a plaque, maybe a statue needs sorting out for this accident, and people need to know about it. So thank you for watching, I really appreciate it. Join me next time for another video. Take care, your history.